viewers, once again, it's my pleasure to meet you concerning this ASUU strike. Yeah, the Academic Staff Union of University ASUU uh, is currently on strike, and students are not really happy with the entire situation because it has really brought about different negative feedbacks across the country. So we want to talk about when the strike started, the very first strike of ASUU, what led to the strike, the position of ASUU, the position of federal government, and other things involved. To start with, the Academic Staff Union Universities had their first strike in 1988 during, I think, Ibrahim Babangida's regime. I don't know, probably there were certain things he was doing back then that led to the strike. And they never since have been strike from year to year and the rest of it. And then recently the current strike, the ongoing strike now, which has lasted for more than 3 months now, is really disturbing, especially to students. So we want to discuss on the strike, we want to know what happened and all the rest. Now, this particular strike had its root sometime around 2008, thereabout, when the Academic Staff Union, started having discussion with federal government on how to see to the state of universities. Improving the standards of universities, the structures, the equipment, and other teaching, learning facilities. So they asked to meet the federal government and then demanded for some monies that could be used to fund universities. And then the federal government refused. Sorry, that was back then around 1990s when the ASUU met federal government at first, asked them to bring the money. So federal government said they had no money. And ASUU went back and then devised a way of raising money to fund the university. So they came up with a plan and said, let us be taxing 1% from production firms, industries or factories in the nation. Let's just tax them 1%. Take this amount, put it in an account. This amount will be used to service the university. The federal government back then accepted it. It was signed into law. But as we all know, from one administration to the other, they started, abandoning the agreement to a point where, the amount of money being realized from that account is just too small, And in addition, there's need for a review because the total number of universities we had back then in the 90s is about double the universities we have now. I think we're having about 50 universities back then. And then for now, the university in Nigeria is over 100. Both federal and state universities. So there's need for federal government to look into that agreement and then do something. But currently, one of the main issues that is causing this strike is the issue of the introduction of IPPIS. Now, the IPPIS, as we all know, it stands for Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System. It's a payment platform that is being used by Western countries, not the Bangladesh anyway, because it's used to fish out ghost workers and people receiving salaries that are not actually employed in that establishment, fraudulent activities. So the federal government brought the IPIS to look into these irregularities in federal parastatals. And then it was a good idea, but then the IPIS is not a good payment platform for the university system, especially for the lecturers. Because the lecturers, as we know, they have this unique kind of, services they provide. For instance, a lecturer can be lecturing in University A as a full-time lecturer there, but be doing part-time in University B. That means the lecturer can be collecting salary in University A as a full-time lecturer and collecting part payment or salary in University B as a part-time lecturer, as an adjunct lecturer, as a sabbatical lecturer, as the case may be. Now, this IPPIS will not have the ability or the capacity to accept that kind of payment system where one man will be earning two salaries, as in collecting like the salary in University A, I'm collecting partial in University B. The IPIS will fault that payment system. So the academic staff union, that's the ASUU, are saying no, this IPIS issue cannot work with us because we have our own different ways of rendering our services. So the federal government are saying no, you must use it. It lingered until we had a strike, I think 2 years ago for a very long time, and then they also called the strike back. And recently again, other issue came up, like what the federal government promised to do. A lot of things has happened. Federal government have failed and broken a lot of their promises. But one of the major and key issue now again, apart from the issue of finance, is this IPIS, because the ASUU have gone further to develop their own payment platform. They call it UTAS. UTAS means University Transparency Accountability Solution or System, as the case may be. The ASUU have brought in their own payment platform, and this payment platform is very good. The payment platform will help to fish out ghost workers, that's number one. And number two, it will also accommodate the uniqueness of lecturing services in the university, meaning the ASUU, the UTAS can accommodate the IPIS and also accommodate what is happening in the university. The UTAS has the ability to recognize a lecturer collecting full-time salary in his basic university, and also part-time salary in the university he's doing adjunct sabbatical contract, as the case may be. So what we are trying to say is that the federal government should have accepted what ASUU brought. That's what we are trying to say. The federal government should have accepted what ASUU brought. But they are not accepting it. In addition to the fact that a lot of things have been taken away from ASUU. For instance, research grants. Like people, if you ask those that are lecturing, they will tell you that to publish one paper will take them, several hundreds of thousands, some up to 300, 400, or even 500,000 for just one paper, and they need, research grant to conduct research so that they can publish without having problems. So if you add all these to the nature of what they are doing, I think the federal government needs to see reason with the ASUU, because, you cannot be, asking somebody to do exactly what you want the person to do, which is contrary to the nature of the person's job. It is not done like that. So we are hoping that the federal government will see to the plight of ASUU and then resolve the case, so that the universities then can be able to produce, fully baked graduates that could compete and then match with graduates worldwide. That's what the ASUU is demanding. So we are hoping that with all this, the federal government will see reason and then do the needful so that our students can return back to school. I have my child in university, and then he's still at home, and I'm not happy about it. My child has been at home for about 3 months now, and we don't have any fixed plans for him, since we are expecting that any time from now ASUU may call off the strike, and then so it's not good for the economy, it's reducing production and all the rest. So these are the main reasons why ASUU is embarking on strike. They need the IPIS to be taken away and be replaced with UTAS, which is their own payment system. They need the federal government to also go and visit the 2009 agreement to see to it, because the universities in Nigeria are more, and we need to fund them as well. And then also to look into other aspects of the academic activities, like grants, funding students for scholarships and the rest. So all these things are the demands of ASUU, not the areas paid by federal government. The areas paid by federal government is areas that have been owed for some years now. It's not part of the demands of ASUU. It's not part. Someone called me and said, ASUU have paid money, why are they not calling? And I said, no, the demands of ASUU is different from what the federal government is trying to do. So I hope with this, you now know why the strike is being prolonged and why ASUU are not shifting grounds. So we pray and we hope that federal government will do the needful. Thank you.